Hello, everyone. We're going to give this a few minutes for a couple of reasons. One, we're connecting with Arnaud, who's coming on here presently. And two, we want to make sure enough people get on before we start doing a lot of the significant work.
I think Arnaud just joined us.
Yeah, I think Arnaud did. And he has an icon, a marker that's very cool as well, too. Grasshopper. Arnaud, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, great.
I think we're going to get rolling here. So welcome everybody to another edition of Tuesdays at 2. I usually preface this by saying it's one of our more popular Zoom calls with clients. Why? Because you hear directly from the people that are training your horses. You can ask them questions, which will happen at the end of this Q&A that I have with Arnaud set up. Now, we've had to do a little bit of rearranging to our schedule. I want to thank Arnaud for really being so flexible and fitting in some time for us today. So Arnaud, please know that we're very grateful for that.
You're always welcome.
We do have a few new partners on this call. And so we will touch briefly on Arnaud's background. Arnaud Delacour is by the way, is it Delacour, Arnaud?
Delacour, yeah.
Delacour, that's much better. He's native of France. He's based at Fair Hill Training Center in Maryland, which, I mean, if you got to be in a training center, that's the one to be at. It's absolutely spectacular, great place to train horses. And if you've never visited, you should make plans. Now, during the winter months, which are upcoming here, he has horses at Tampa Bay Downs in Florida and at Turfway Park in Kentucky. Arnaud has been training for West Point for just shy of a 2-year period, so a year and a half roughly. And officially, this is his 10th year out on his own, hanging his own shingle, if you will. Before that, he had some longer stints working under some of the best. Christophe Clement in the States and in France with Alain de Royer Dupré. How's that for pronouncing? Oh, no.
That's good enough.
Okay.
Or, I would say de Royer Dupré. But
De Royer Dupré.
Dupré, who is now retired, but was a long-time trainer for the Aga Khan.
So what are some of the more important things you learned with two of the top class stables and two of the more recognized names in training?
Well, mainly you need to have good horses, and but just be progressive about how you bring them. Make sure you evaluate them properly, give them a chance to get to full maturity, and hopefully get the best of them.
Now you become a fixture at Tampa Bay Downs, which we have a number of our team members that love going there. It's a beautiful place. But what, from a horsemanship perspective, has drawn you there and keeps you coming back?
It's just a very good, very kind surface, I think, in my opinion, on the dirt. And the turf speaks for itself, It's always like probably one of the best turf course in the winter, as far as turf goes. So we're very happy there. We can evaluate our horses. We can bring them along. And, most of the time we're ready to go like in the spring, but it's also a nice place to winter. They do very well. There is a winter. It's not, it's not hot all the time. It's like this morning was 40 degrees. So there is a winter. I think it's good for horses, to get a little cold and to have a feel for the season. And so I think it works out great.
And you talked a bit about how much you like the turf course there. What is it? Is it the consistency of the turf surface and how it handles any kind of weather?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they're very protective of the turf course at Tampa. Obviously, you'd say on average they run they probably run a little less than other places. But the turf is very good, and they put a lot of thought process into maintaining it and how to when they build the turf course, just to have a good product. And I think they've managed.
Very much so. We know some of the top trainers that have a number of turf horses like racing there, including you. And so we're happy to have our horses that like that surface in that area. Now on to the individual horses. And very quickly, just want to mention that we have a yearling filly by Medaglia d'Oro that is earmarked for Arnaud's barn. She's done well in her early lessons with Dr. Barry Eisman there in Ocala, and she came from the Keeneland September sale. But now on to the horses that Arnaud is currently taking care of. Bassanio, he's going to turn 5 in a couple of weeks. Gosh, is he going to be 6? No, I think he's going to be 5 in a couple of weeks. He
5,
seems
yeah.
like he's been around forever. He's an English bred. He's a gelding. He didn't debut until last December, and he got a win and 3 placings in 9 races through October of this year. We decided to freshen him up just a little bit on the farm near Fair Hill, and he's about finished with the 45 days of paddock turnout that was prescribed. Arnaud, I think he's been a useful horse for the Mid-Atlantic, and his form was pretty strong through the middle of the summer before he had some disappointing races. In hindsight, do you think he was just tailing off and needing some time, or did he plateau in terms of ability?
No, I think maybe a little bit of both, but he was telling off. He was not like he was very sound. I mean, we gave him a break, but soundness wise, we checked him, with our vets and everything looks to be fine. He was just getting a little bit sour, I believe. So we just needed to make him happy again. And that's the purpose of the 45 days with at Fairhill with Bruce Jackson, who does a very good job and who had him for a long time before anyway. So I think it will work out. Now, as far as ability, it fits very well, as you said, in the Mid-Atlantic and Tampa, like Malobon's condition. And we hope that with the right amount of time and if he keeps improving, maybe it get to another level. But at the moment, I'll say he's a solid allowance horse.
Wonderful. We'll move on to Independence Avenue. This is a 2-year-old filly. She has been exciting, and it's been wonderful to see her emerge from the OBS June sale, where David Ngorda was to pick her out, able to pick her up and buy her for the princely sum of $50,000. She made a very quick and smooth transition to Arnaud's barn, won her 2nd career start impressively. We had a few snags. She had to scratch when the grade 3 matron came off the turf in New York. We decided against running her on the dirt. Then she got spooked entering the racetrack before the Stuart Manor Stakes at Aqueduct in November, had to scratch because she flipped over a little bit on her side. No injuries, just that's the protocol in New York, but we lost an opportunity there. We tried to run her allowance in Maryland. That race didn't go. So plan D, E, F, whatever it was, actually panned out, and the results were very satisfying. She stretched out to a mile distance on November the 29th at Tampa. And Arnaud, that was just an easy win. And I'm sure you were delighted with the result.
Absolutely, it was a nice confidence booster for her. We also needed to give her 2 turns experience. I had that in the back of my mind. When you look at her pedigree and the amount of good races there is for 3-year-old fillies on the turf going 2 turns, that's something that we were leaning toward to anyway. I was delighted that the race went because it was a little bit tricky to have the right race. But, thanks to the direction that Tampa Bay done, they really pushed to make that race. And she did great. I mean, the experience that she got going 2 turns, she relaxed very well. She was very good in the paddock and in the post parade. After something like that happened, like what happened in Aqueduct, you always want them to have a good experience. I mean, that's the main goal. And I think that we got that, so that's perfect.
Do you think she's just a miler, or do you see a bit more capability in terms of distance with her?
Well, she can probably go a little bit further. Keep in mind that she came from the 2-year-old in training cell, so you ask them to go fast. And sometimes it's a little bit hard to come back from that. So if she gets a couple of good experience going to turn, I don't see any reason why she wouldn't go further than my 8 or more.
That's exciting. Well done with her. Well done, Arnaud. Long live the Queen. That's our next horse to discuss, and she's in the entries for this Friday, coming up this Friday at Aqueduct, where she's going to make her first start since joining Arnaud's barn She's going to race in a 7-furlong allowance for New York breds. She's never run on the dirt before, but given the opportunity and the fact that Arnaud was still going to have a few horses stabled at Fair Hill and into the December month, this race came up as a return spot for this filly. Arnaud, what's been your take on Long Live the Queen? And specifically, she's had a history of being a tough horse to train. What's been your take?
Yeah, she's very she's a little bit aggressive in her training all the time, going to the track. There's no easy day for her really. She goes to the track and she's always very aggressive, but very manageable in my opinion. Well, especially at Fairhill because we've got the turnout and everything, so it helps with this kind of filly to keep them sweet. But I've been happy with her. She actually have only one breeze on the dirt, and that was a very good breeze. And I thought she galloped that very well, which decided it's kind of why I would like to try the dirt before we move on to to Turfway or the turf. She's also a filly that is coming back from an injury. I mean, a minor injury, but I take that in consideration regarding our previous starts. She was maybe tailing off a little bit just because she was getting a little sore. So I think she's ready to go. She had some solid works, and I like the spot on Friday. There's horses with a lot of experience on the dirt, obviously. So it's a bit of an experiment, but I think it's worth trying.
One of the things that we just talked about briefly was the ability to have a bit more turnout at Fairhill. There's just more opportunities. It's a big sort of wooded and an expansive area. What else can you do with a horse that has maybe some history of challenges, emotional challenges or tough to train? What other things can you do? Can you do trail riding with them at all?
Absolutely. I mean, not going to the track every day is one of the tools we have. You can go for a trail ride or just in the field, just change their mind a little bit. You can also gallop, instead of going left-handed all the time, you can try to go right-handed. On the turf, do stuff like that to change their mind, and you kind of trick them a little bit. And eventually they take a deep breath and realize that, there's a little bit more into training than just going to the track and being aggressive every day.
That's wonderful. I love hearing that. Let's move on to Mademoiselle Jackie. She's next to talk about. She's 3, filly. She's with Arnaud String at Turfway Park up here in Florence, Kentucky, and she is targeting an allowance race on December the 20th right there at Turfway. And Arnaud, we tried the main track in her first start with you. It really didn't appear like she handled the surface really well. She'll be running on the synthetic surface at Turfway. And my question is, how have her breeze has gone on that surface at Fairhill? And therefore, what do you think in terms of what, the likelihood of her liking the surface at Turfway?
Well, so I think that she obviously she's always breezed very well on the synthetic at Fairhill, but tomorrow will be her first breeze at Turfway. As a matter of fact, she's been. I was there this weekend, so I've been watching her gallop, and she looks like very smooth. Look like she's gonna like it. Of course, you never know if they're gonna like it, and until you try. But I was happy with what I saw, and I think it'd be a right move. Now to come back to her dirt start, that was a little tricky because she stumbled badly coming out the gate.
Right.
So a lot of time it takes a bit away from those horses when they stumble. By the time they recover, find them balance again, and the race is almost over. But meanwhile, I didn't think that she was especially moving like a dirt filly. So it was nice to experiment. We try to find different angles, but I didn't think that was a positive outcome, of course. So.
Overall, what's she like to train? Is she kind? Is she tough? Somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, so somewhere in the middle. She's really sensible. She's kind of a big filly, not especially aggressive, but she does what you ask. She's pretty easy.
We'll move on to the last horse to discuss here, and that's QF75. He's a 5-year-old. Just ran at Turfway on Saturday, and it was a bit disappointing. He was in a good spot. He was tracking the leader going to the far turn. When really the running, the real running started, he looked a little bit like he was spinning his wheels and eventually finished off the board. And Arnaud, the question I guess I would have is, would that be an instance of the horse not handling the surface in your mind? Or is there something else that you were thinking?
No, I think it's the surface because it never really looked comfortable. Even if they were, he was sitting in a perfect spot. They didn't go too fast, like 49 and change. I don't remember exactly the fraction, but that was very sensible. And he never gave me the feeling that he was grabbing the bit and traveling like the winner. Even at the half mile pole, it looks like he was laboring a little bit on this track. And they would do that on synthetic, It doesn't. A lot of time it just translates from turf to synthetic their form. But from time to time you will see a horse that really doesn't like it. The same thing, it's worth a try because when it works, you've got a lot of opportunity and more options and more money, obviously, over there. But ultimately, I think it needs to come back on the turf.
And does that mean he might transfer back down to Tampa for you?
Well, that's what I would suggest to the group. Haven't spoke really to everybody. I wanted to make sure that he came back in good shape first, and we didn't have another reason why he didn't run well. But he went back to the track this morning, went for a little jog, and looks really good. So I think that's what we should do. I'll run it by everybody.
Wonderful. Well, that concludes my specific part of the questions to pose for Arnaud. And I see that the phone lines and the text lines and the Q&A lines are open. We already have a few questions from the partners. So I'll start here. Steve Camborian wanted to know, with QF75 most likely returning to the turf, mile and a 16th or a mile and an eighth, are those thoughts in your mind, or are you thinking shorter? What are your thoughts as far as distance?
Probably we had to run a mile at Laurel Park, but we had to do it because there was no other races. But ultimately, I think that it'll be a little bit easier for him to go mile and eight or something like that. So he could be laying close on the beat, don't go too fast, and that's kind of he seems to be doing his best work. The mile at Turfway as well wouldn't have changed anything because at the 3 pole it looked like it was going backward anyway. But ultimately on the turf, I think that mile 8 or even mile 1/4, if we can, would be his best distance.
Very good. Ed wants to ask, other than the upcoming stake at Gulfstream, do you often ship to Gulfstream from Tampa? In general philosophically speaking.
Yeah, absolutely. If I think that we have the right horse for the right race or the right surface, actually we've got a horse hunter in the Allen Jerkins on Saturday, which is a 2-mile race on the turf, stakes. So that's a very unusual race. You don't find too many 2 miles in North America, and so we're going to Gulfstream for that purpose. And I think it'd be efficient because he won 2 mile already.
Wonderful. Michael wants to know about Independence Avenue and her possibility in the stake at Gulfstream on the 6th of January. Is that still something you're thinking about?
I think so. I think it's a good plan for her. We're going a mile. I like the mile at Gulfstream. You need to be a little bit tactical, which she is. We know that. She's got natural speed. So I think that if she's doing well, and so far she is, I think that'll be a good option for her.
Let's see. Ed wants to know which tracks you prefer in the Mid-Atlantic to race at during the summertime. So that would include, I guess, Laurel, Pimlico, Delaware, and maybe Parks too. We're counting all and Colonial, I think, would have to fit within that as well too. Do you have a preference?
Colonial Down would be my preference at the moment because at that time, like in the summer, it's probably one of the best turf course around. There's no really bias to me at Colonial Down. There's a big long stretch, so you really have time. You don't have to rush your horses. They can come from behind. They can also win from the lead if you have the right pace. So that would be probably in the Mid-Atlantic one of my favorite track.
Very good. And of course, Michael just wants to thank you for all your work with Independence Avenue, his favorite horse with Arnaud. I do have someone who is raising their hands. It's under Zoom user, so I'm not sure who it is, but they've got their hand raised. And so if you want to ask your question, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know why he keeps on recording me like that. Jeff Silver, but Arnaud, I just wanted to thank all the hard work you put in. And I want to let the other partners know, me personally, I'm with a 29% win rate with you and a 71% in the money. and that's with you getting primarily reclamation projects from West Point, and then you had one horse you got a fresh crack at, Independence Avenue, which is a $50,000 horse with a D Nix. So I just want to let the partners know what a wonderful up and coming trainer you are, and that they shouldn't be shy about putting money down. And I've told Tom Bellhouse that anytime his horses come up, put me in for 5-10% automatically. So I just wanted to pass that on to the partners, because I think he'll do well with this guy, and he's a nice guy. And let me tell you something, his barn, not that I've been to thousands of them, but I've been to at least 15, 20 of them, and it's the quietest barn I've ever seen. The stalls are probably 2.5 times larger than any other stalls I see, unless Flightline had a big stall out in California, but I guess that's because of the star status. But I think these horses do well with the atmosphere up there at Fair Hill and in Arnaud's barn. And then if I can finish with that, but I got a couple questions for you, and then I don't know, do you want to respond to that, Jeff? Or
Well, I just wanted to say that the job is still open for PR advocate for Arnaud, and I think you've moved yourself to the head of the line, Jeff. So congratulations there. If you ever want to leave the legal profession, you do a hell of a job on that.
He's a nice guy too. So
go ahead, ask your questions though, Jeff. Go.
All right. So with Long Live the Queen, I saw that horse at the Timonium sale when we bought her. Jeff was real excited about her, and I saw her twice up at Bruce Jackson's. I saw her once at your place. I mean, the horse is just a very affectionate horse. I was shocked to hear that the horse acted up at Christoph's barn up at Belmont. But am I not seeing the whole horse here, or talk to me about her?
Well, I mean, you have to take in consideration the fact that they're young horses. You change from their environment, and you start putting pressure on them. Everybody knows that every trainer and every owner wants to win races with their 2-year-old. So you put a little bit of pressure. Sometimes mentally they're not quite ready to take it, so they can go a little bit the wrong way. Just take a while for them to adjust. I don't think it's anybody's fault. It's just a fact. That's what we do. We make little adjustments, and I think hopefully she adjusted herself as well to a different style, and she's more mature, and hopefully that will make the difference.
What's your long-term prognosis for this horse, or short-term and long-term?
Well, I need to see her run, because I don't think that we had a fair assessment of her ability in the last couple of races. So I want to see her run. I want to try different things, the dirt being one of them. It may or may not work, but we'll keep trying something different after. We know that she obviously liked the tappeta. She won on it. So that will be also an option if the dirt doesn't work. But we just need to run her, try different things, and see if we can find our niche, really.
And then finally, just with the 1-year-old, I mean, have you had a chance to observe the horse or get video?
Well, I've seen video of her and a picture. I haven't seen her in person yet. I will on my next trip to Ocala, which should be in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, great.
Stand by on that, Jeff. But good questions, and thanks for being you. It's been a pleasure hearing some of these questions. Great work. I'm going to ask a question or two from Jay Singer, who Arnaud wanted to know, will QF75 go back on Lasix, even though maybe there's some issues with thumps that may or may not be related. So back on Lasix for QF75?
That's a tough question. I mean, I think we're trying to hold him. When I say hold him, like treat the bleeding different way than Lasix with him. Without a doubt, the Lasix affect horses that are thumping. And so at Turfway, when he ran, he didn't thump, but he didn't run as well, very well. So, I mean, I don't know if he gave the best account of himself. So that's, I would say, to be determined. I'd love to be able to breeze him and for him not to bleed and keep him off Lasix if we could.
Very good. There was a follow-up question from Jay. I have my own opinions about this, but I think he'd rather hear yours. Does night racing impact performance? My 2 cents is it depends on the horse. What about you?
I agree. I think it depends on the horse. He behaved very well. I didn't see any, any, he didn't spook at the lights or something like that. We also, one thing also that we have to take in consideration at Turfway, we train them in the morning with the lights. So obviously they're schooled, it's not like, wow, suddenly they have the light in their eyes and they've never seen it. So, I don't think I'll take it as an excuse, really.
Jeff Rosenberg would like to know, are there any thoughts in your mind, even though she's done so very, very well on the turf, of trying Independence Avenue on the dirt? I would say, personally, you don't want to fix what isn't broken, but in the back of your mind, you think there would be an instance where you would try her on the dirt surface, Arnaud?
Well, probably not. I mean, if a race comes off the turf or something like that. But the thing is, like, if we go to Gulfstream, if it comes off the turf for whatever reason, we'd be on the tapetas, so I have no problem trying her. To me, she kind of screams turf. I mean, she moves like a turf horse. She really stretch out. You see, her range of motion is really turfy, very efficient, but very turfy. And don't see any point of trying her on the dirt, but we'll see if
You never say never, but I understand
Right.
exactly what you're saying. Finally, Ed has a follow-up question on Long Live the Queen. She's going against New York breds. Do you anticipate she can race an open company? I don't think you can answer that question right yet, but have at it. Do you think she'd ever run against open company?
Well, I mean, at the moment, her number would be. I mean, she's already running open company because she broke her maiden at Gulfstream, right?
Yep, that's right.
And so that was open company. It's not so much a question of the company, I guess. I mean, the state bred program. It's more a question of ability and affinity for surface. So, I mean, I'd like to run her on different type and really assess her, whether it's New York bred or not.
Very good. I think we've exhausted the questions. I hope we haven't exhausted you, Arnaud. We're very grateful that you joined us and rearranged your schedule in order to make this call today. Really, really appreciate everything that you've done in a relatively short amount of time, and wish you bon chance. Good luck going forward.
Thank you very much, guys.
All right, that's Arnaud Delacour, and we will have Shug McGahee next week here on our final, at least for 2023, final Tuesdays at 2, and then we'll keep chugging into the new year. Thanks for everybody joining us today, and we will talk soon.